Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all of the panelists and ranking member for calling this truly important hearing. And Mr. Judd hit it right on the head with his comment that it's not only on the border now, it is coming into the United States. Just this past week, a news reporter and her cameraman were shot. A police officer putting gas in his car was shot. A woman from Illinois was shot. The incidents that you mentioned. And as Mr. Starr said, it's going to be a long effort on the border. And as my colleague, Mr. Mica, mentioned, it is out of control. And I would like to point out that a lot of this shooting is coming from guns that were manufactured and slipped over the border into Mexico. In fact, Mexico has some of the most restrictive gun laws in the entire world, yet it's seeing a tremendous surge in gun-related violence. Just yesterday, Chairman Cummings shared with me this letter that was sent to him from the Charge d'Affaires of Mexico, Alejandro Estravil. And in it, he says that the ATF found that over 70% of the guns recovered in Mexico in 2014 were sourced from the United States. Now, that is a shocking statistic. 70% of the guns came from America. And in it, he further writes, and I quote, "Congress can play a very important role in combating these transborder criminal organizations and the flow of illegal firearms by enacting proper legislation," end quote. I ask unanimous permission to put this letter into the record, Mr. Cummings and Mr. Chaffetz.
Without objection, so ordered.
And we are trying to do just that. Earlier today, in a bipartisan way, Ranking Member Cummings and others, a Member Kelly from Illinois, introduced legislation to make it a felony to deal with illegal guns, to be a trafficker. It's not even a felony in our country to traffic in illegal guns. I would say, how dumb can you be? We should pass a bill making it a felony tomorrow, today. And also the penalties, as we've heard in hearings before this committee on the fast and furious hearings we had from law enforcement, they don't even bother to arrest traffickers or straw purchasers, those who purchase guns for others that are known criminals or drug dealers or gang leaders, because there's no penalty. It's like a paper penalty, so they don't waste their time doing it. And they literally pled with us to give them the tools to do the job. So today we are introducing this bill in a bipartisan way that would increase penalties for straw purchasers and make trafficking in illegal guns a felony. Now, in Mexico, just to give an example, to make a purchase in a gun store, and they only have one gun store in the whole country, but to make a purchase, they are required by law, and their store is operated by the Army. They must pass a background check, present identification, pass through a metal detector, hand over cell phones, a camera, just to enter the building. And once inside, a prospective buyer is fingerprinted, photographed, and then permitted to buy a single weapon and a box of ammunition, and they are required to take that home and put it under lock and key. So they have strong gun laws, but the obvious question is, where are all these guns coming from? And these guns are coming from the United States. And Mr. Harris, in your testimony, you said, and I quote from your testimony, the U.S.-Mexican border, the primary threats are southbound gun smuggling, northern-bound drug trafficking, human trafficking, illegal immigration, and the violence associated with these activities. Could you elaborate, please, Mr. Harris, on the southbound gun smuggling? How big is it? Can you tell us more about this gun smuggling?
Yes, ma'am. I'll answer that question in kind of two parts. One is what my role is in southbound weapons smuggling at a strategic level. As I had also mentioned in my testimony, for the first time ever, we have identified across the border the top transnational criminal organizations who are involved in the full gamut of smuggling activities which you had listed. I would add southbound bulk cash smuggling to that list as well. But this is to me is a huge accomplishment never before seen in my career. All investigative agencies, whether FBI, DEA, ICE, they all have their cases that they work. But for the first time ever, we have interagency agreement on which top criminal organizations we believe represent the highest threat to U.S. national security. Some of those organizations are involved in southbound weapons smuggling. Our success on targeting these organizations before this has pretty much been on the domestic side, but this new position gives me the capability to target these organizations all the way from the origination point to the final destination point. That's one part of the—
How many guns do you think are being trafficked into Mexico each year? Do you have any feel for it?
Well, second part of my answer will respond to that. I'm not an expert at port of entry operations. I'll have to defer to my CBP counterpart. However, from my former capacity as the Border Patrol Chief in Laredo, we routinely augment southbound inspections by OFO officers with detailed Border Patrol agents. I would say, by and large, our success in targeting southbound weapons smuggling is due to the vigilance and capabilities of our agents. As I'm sure you know, we do not have the same kind of technology going southbound that we have going northbound, nor do we do 100% southbound inspections. We do pulse and surge operations and operations based on intelligence and investigative information, but largely the southbound weapons seizures are cold hits. It would be helpful to have some similar technology going southbound to what we have going northbound. The non-intrusive inspection technology, some of the backscatters would be very instrumental, and I think that would give us a better picture of what kind of weapons are going southbound.
Thank the gentleman.
My time has expired, but if I could say, Mr. Chairman, in 1 second, obviously part of controlling the crime in America and at the border is controlling the sale of illegal gun trafficking and straw purchases of illegal guns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now